Don't get cocky just because you repaid $500,000. I clenched my fists at my brother's words. There he was, grinning vulgarly with our parents. While I toiled away, he had the freedom to attend the school of his choice and live it up. Their heartless demeanor finally broke something in me. My name is Aaron, a 30-year-old company employee. Our family runs a small construction firm that also handles renovations. When I was in middle school, our company was severely indebted under my father's presidency and my mother's vice presidency. I was studying to advance to high school when my parents asked me to give up further education to help with the family business. Though hesitant, I did it for my family. For 15 years, I've done everything possible to turn things around. Thankfully, our debts are now settled, and the business is starting to improve. Then, an incident occurred. My older brother Randy, 2 years my senior, returned home. Our parents always compared us, favoring him. Even when I had to give up high school to help at home, Randy was allowed to pursue his desires and enjoy his freedom. I was always resentful as a child, wondering why he was the favorite. Randy, aware of his preferential treatment, was harsh towards me, always mocking. No matter how much I resisted, our parents would side with him, telling me to do as your brother says. Randy, the firstborn, is handsome, athletic, and clever. In contrast, I am book-smart but awkward and ordinary-looking. To our parents, I was always less than him, though that was hardly comforting. "Hey, Aaron, you still look as dull as ever," Randy remarked with a shallow smile, wearing expensive sunglasses indoors after a long time. "Brother, long time no see. How was life in England?" After graduating high school, Randy went to study in England and was supposed to return after university. However, he got a job there and stayed for years. The reason for his sudden return was unclear, but our parents mentioned he might have started to miss the US. I couldn't quite believe it. "Randy's back, so we're taking the day off. Dinner will be your favorite steak, of course." "Right, I'll go all out making Randy's favorites. Let's have cake too." It's been 3 days since Randy returned, and it's been a non-stop celebration. "But Dad, there's an important business meeting today. The other company's president will be there. We can't do it without you." When I interjected, my father glared at me sharply. "Handle it yourself. They're just subcontractors, not some big corporate president. It doesn't matter if I'm not there." Following my father, my mother also nodded. "That's right. Just handle it well. Don't bother your father, especially now that Randy has come home. You've always been so clueless about the mood." I pressed my forehead in frustration, nearly blurting out that this was unreasonable. But arguing with my parents, preoccupied with Randy, would be futile, I knew from years of experience. "I got it," I replied curtly and left the house. I'm used to this by now. Over these 15 years, I've been burdened with various responsibilities, making me more reliable to our employees and partners than even my father. I just kept working as usual. As I stepped out, I glanced back, hearing faint laughter from inside. As always, there was no place for me in that joyful noise. When I returned home, my parents and Randy were already enjoying dinner, their faces flushed, perhaps from alcohol. When my father noticed me, he gestured for me to come over. "Ah, Aaron, perfect timing. There's something important we need to discuss," he said in a tone that brooked no argument. The table was nearly empty, clearly, no one had considered saving any food for me. "Yes, Dad," I replied briefly and sat down in front of him. "You've been through a lot since middle school graduation. It was our fault for incurring debts that jeopardized the company, but you must have had a hard time too." I widened my eyes in disbelief at my father's unexpected words. His tone was gentler than ever before, and I was bewildered. "No, it's because we're family, it's only natural for me to help," I managed to say with a trembling voice. Perhaps they were finally starting to acknowledge me. A flicker of hope crossed my mind as my parents nodded in agreement. "Your mother and I have discussed this." My father shifted his gaze to my mother and then to my brother Randy. The next words were just as unexpected. "From now on, your brother Randy, who returned from England, will take charge. Aaron, you can do as you please. Middle school graduate is fired." I couldn't comprehend what I was hearing at first. What? Slipped from my lips before I fully grasped the meaning of his words. My lips, no, my whole body began to tremble. Dad, I've always worked hard for you, and now I'm fired. As I asked in confusion, Randy burst out laughing. You seriously thought you'd take over after Dad? With your middle school education? I, who have studied and worked in England, am far more suitable to succeed him. The laughter of my parents and brother was gratingly loud, echoing painfully in my head and squeezing my chest tight. As they ignored my stunned silence, my mother cheerfully added, Dad has been talking about retiring for a while now. Then, just when the timing was right, Randy came back. It must be fate, we were just saying. Indeed. Nothing could make me happier than having Randy as the new president. He'll use his knowledge and experience from England to grow my company even further. At our parents' hopeful words, Randy nodded with satisfaction. That's the situation, Aaron. Sorry, man. This is too arbitrary. Surely the employees won't accept this either, I protested. As I was about to argue further, Randy reached out and grabbed me by the shirt. Don't get cocky just because you repaid $500,000. Randy's ugly smirk was inches from my face, and I gasped for air. I desperately looked to our parents for support, but both averted their eyes. In that moment, the events of the past 15 years flashed through my mind. When they first asked me to help with the family business, I was filled with resentment. After all, while Randy freely pursued his studies and pleasures, I had been stuck. Perhaps my parents had their reasons, and this might have been a chance for them to finally acknowledge me. I had harbored a childish hope, convincing myself to listen to their wishes. After all, at 15, I was too young to rebel, yearning for my parents' affection. Understood. Before I knew it, that was my response. My parents sighed in relief, and Randy nodded, satisfied. As long as you understand. You can leave everything to Randy. There won't be any problems, my parents said, almost as if making excuses. I turned my back on them. I'll submit my resignation soon. I'll also prepare to leave home. I walked out of the room and closed the door. As if our exchange had never happened, the cheerful laughter resumed almost immediately. Back in my room, tears began to fall freely. I truly believed I had made significant efforts for my family over these 15 years. I had taken the lead in sales and administrative work, convincing employees and partners who wanted to leave to stay. As a result, everyone came to trust me, leading to where we are today. And now, because Randy had returned. The word "fired" from my father and their laughter echoed in my head. In the end, I was just being conveniently used. The next day, I promptly began the process of resigning. While I packed my belongings, Randy watched me with a smug smile, probably thinking I was just putting on a brave face. My tears of sorrow had run dry. At the same time, any affection for my family had faded away. I'll show you hell. I muttered in a whisper, unheard by anyone. Months after my resignation, my father stepped down as president, and Randy took over. A former colleague, who remained in good standing, confirmed this. Apparently, Randy started off his presidency with a high-handed approach, quickly becoming disliked by the employees. One day, my phone rang, and it was from my father. I smirked, expecting a call from someone in the family. When I answered, not only my father's but also my mother's and Randy's voices filled the noisy background. They likely had it on speaker mode. Listening to them this way was maddening. Deciding to do the same, I switched to speaker mode to respond. Aaron, what in the world do you think you're doing? When Randy asked his question, I just tilted my head. Starting a conversation without a greeting, what's this about? What do you mean by, what's going on? From the other end of the phone, I could hear my mother chiding me not to play dumb. It seemed they were quite flustered. My parents have always been quick to become emotional, but they sounded even more agitated than usual. As I sighed in dismay, my father got to the point. Stop playing innocent, you know exactly what you've done. It's because you convinced most of the employees to resign and join you. And even reaching out to our clients, because of you, we're in serious trouble. I couldn't help but smile at my father's words. According to him, a majority of the company's employees had simultaneously submitted their resignations. They can't follow Randy. They said they're going to join you, Aaron, was the common reason everyone gave. Moreover, our long-standing clients had also started to sever their contracts one after another. No matter his education in England, Randy was practically a novice in management and our company's operations. Additionally, given his personality, he likely imposed unreasonable demands on the employees in a high-handed manner. What dirty tricks did you use? And what's this about them going to your place? Did you start your own company? I affirmed his agitated query. That's right. I simply told everyone why I was resigning. Maybe because I was trusted, everyone believed me quickly. I also spoke honestly with our clients and expressed my gratitude for all the past years. They are important to me, after all. They really sympathized with me. I explained that during the period leading up to my resignation and even after leaving, I had been discreetly preparing to start my own company. The employees who resigned from our family business were planning to join me at my new company. As I had been the main contact for most of our family business's clients, I was well liked by them. Many clients felt a distrust towards the new president, Randy, and his approach, quickly deciding to cut ties with our family business. Some of these clients were now in positive talks with my new company. Despite being taken care of by our family business all this time, you're such an ungrateful son. Do you realize how much Randy has struggled? Apologize right now. My mother shrieked in response to my explanation, and I couldn't help but burst into laughter. I'll return those words right back to you. At that moment, I was overwhelmed with various emotions, disgust at their continued blame, anger, sadness, and a sense of triumph for finally getting my revenge. Perhaps because they had never heard me speak like this, the other end of the phone went silent for a moment. Let me make it clear, I didn't coerce anyone. The employees and our clients made their own decisions. They chose to leave you and join me. While I had indeed told people I was planning to start my own company, I never actively recruited anyone or sweet-talked any clients. From the other side of the phone, I could hear my mother sobbing, followed by Randy starting to speak. Anyway, things are really tough right now. You know how much you helped the family business, right? We can't keep up with the work without the employees, and as clients continue to leave, we're losing business. If this continues, we're heading towards a huge deficit, or worse. Worse as in, bankruptcy. When I interjected, my father raised his voice. Ah, good, you understand. Come back now, and I'll even make you vice president. Let's uplift the family business together as brothers. Both my father and Randy were just spouting words that suited their convenience. Vice president, why would such words change my mind now? Weren't there other things they should be saying first? I had been waiting for different words all this time. I sighed. It's really selfish of you. What do you think these 15 years have been like for me? Honestly, I didn't care about becoming president. I just wanted to be acknowledged as part of the family. To my heartfelt admission, my mother responded. You are of course part of the family. But you are the younger brother, and Randy is the eldest. It's no use, I thought, pressing my fingers against my forehead. Even now, they still said it was because he was the eldest. Such reasons didn't matter anymore. My feelings were as I had just expressed. Tears that I thought had dried up welled up, but I held them back. When Dad declared me fired, I was devastated. Seeing Randy's triumphant face made my blood boil. But then I thought, this sets me free. I'm free from your curse. Finally, apologies began to spill from my parents and Randy. They said, sorry, and we apologize, but it didn't resonate with me at all, even though I had longed to hear these words. I remained expressionless as I spoke to my former family. I no longer consider you my family. Hey Randy, you mentioned something about just $500,000, but have you ever considered the magnitude of that amount? Of course, I didn't resolve all this alone. It was thanks to the cooperation of trusted colleagues, subordinates, and clients. From now on, it's your turn to support your parents as I did. Securing clients and building trust takes time, but as their proud son, you should be able to manage, right? Randy had no response. On the other side of the phone, my quickly adapting former parents were already buttering him up. Let Randy be the one exploited now. I am free. Goodbye. With a declaration that I no longer considered them family, I deliberately called my brother by his name and ended the call with those words. Years later, the family business went bankrupt. Just before the bankruptcy, my former family rushed to my company asking for money. Randy tearfully explained that he had made a big mistake at a company in England, got fired, and returned to the US in desperation. He had counted on living comfortably under the assumption that Dad would let him do whatever he wanted because I had already repaid the debt. No wonder his return was so abrupt. Once again, they apologized for everything, but it was too late. After their persistent pleading, I had security escort them out. I don't know what became of them, but they're probably at rock bottom. My company, thanks to the colleagues who joined me and the clients who trusted me, is thriving. Next spring, I'm getting married, and it feels like light is finally shining on my life. When I was told I was fired, I truly despaired about what my life had been. But now, it's different. I will cherish my colleagues, clients, and the woman who will soon be my family, and build a bright future.